Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and with me today is Sean Chandler.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
He has a great channel, Sean Chandler Talks About. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to check it out or not, but the link is in the description, and you ought to check out his channel. The way he talks about movies and stuff like that, it's so cool. It's so fun. So, Sean, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Sean Chandler. I love to talk about movies. That's actually why I'm very excited to talk movies actually with someone on camera live.
It's awesome.
And technology makes it so I can talk to someone that's like 1,000 miles away. So this is very cool. And I'm so grateful that you let me do this.
Yeah, and now we get to talk about, I think, some of our favorite movies here, Star Wars.
That is correct.
Yes, more specifically now, Episode 7, The Force Awakens. We're both going to read way too much into this movie. Sean, what did you think of this movie when it came out?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start off by saying probably my favorite movie of last year. I've got 2 kids, so I don't get to go out to the movies as much as I would love to. But this is probably my favorite movie. With that said, I kind of went into it and really enjoyed it, but also felt a little bit disappointed kind of coming out of it. Like it didn't live up to my whole childhood's worth of anticipation. Yeah. And so like first impressions, it was like this sort of like, that was awesome. I wish it would have been more though. It's like, then I had to step back and go, wait, that's the most fun I had at the movies last year. Yeah. I thought it was awesome. I was laughing. I was thrilled. I was excited. The only big complaint I have is it didn't live up to my entire childhood's worth of excitement for a Star Wars movie. Yeah. In which case I go, I think I'm okay with this movie just being really, really fun and exciting.
Yeah, I had kind of the same thing too when I went to see it where, I try to keep my expectations and anticipation for this movie in check because like the way our imaginations work, we could just make it like it's supposed to be this huge, awesome thing and there's no way it could live up to that. So I was trying so hard, and it's funny because as I was watching it, part of me was disappointed that it followed A New Hope so closely and used so much from A New Hope, but then at the same time, like the way our modern CGI and technology looked, the way they told the story, because even though they reused some of the same stuff, they did it well and they told the story well. So like it half disappointed me, half didn't, but then I kind of let it go because I liked how they told the story. So in the end, I walked out of it and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I know that fight trying to keep the anticipation there in check.
Yeah, that's where I can understand some people being so critical of it for reusing so many beat-by-beat type things from A New Hope. But at the same time, that movie's almost 40 years old. So the idea that you're kind of remaking it 40 years later with how much has advanced in technology that's not much of a complaint. And then the question, I guess I was actually having this conversation with a coworker just a couple days ago. There's all of these Star Wars knockoffs that are not as good as The Force Awakens. So if I look at The Force Awakens as a Star Wars knockoff and just evaluate it based off that, it's the best Star Wars knockoff. In which case, that's not a complaint.
I don't think I ever would have thought of it as a knockoff. But yeah, if you evaluate it from that way, it's the best one that's out there. And I really liked it, and I'm anticipating Rogue One next week. I can't wait for Rogue One, and I'm anticipating Episode 8 next year. Like, I can't wait for these things.
Yeah, I'm having to actively choose to not overwatch the trailers for Rogue One and not read too many things because I want to go in as fresh as possible. I actually had some of the plot points in The Force Awakens spoiled for me in a comment section, not even about Star Wars The Force Awakens. They just wrote in who died and who was what, and I was like, are you kidding me? So I'm trying to be extra careful going into Rogue One. I don't want any of that.
Yeah.
It's tough.
After that Batman v Superman trailer, I'm trying to be very careful about trailers and not overdo it. But then because of Durbania and I do trailer reactions and stuff, it's like, well, I guess I kind of have to watch them. Please don't let them spoil anything. Please don't let them spoil anything. So, well, reading way too much into this movie, Sean, like, what are some thoughts as you're watching this movie? Like, what do you read into it?
So I think the first thing that comes out of this movie and really all the Star Wars movies is this journey where totally normal people, and so whether that's Luke Skywalker in A New Hope or Rey in this film, totally normal, very bland vanilla lives find themselves swept away in this big, gigantic adventure that's bigger than themselves. And it's not even just just those main characters. You look at Finn, he's just a totally average soldier, and even as the movie plays out, he has no great skills. His skill is that he's willing to step up when called to action, but he's not all that great at anything in particular. You've got Han Solo, who's just kind of a smuggler, kind of well known for being a smuggler, and all these people get swept up into this story that's bigger than themselves, where they matter so much more than it appears that they matter on the surface level. And for me, that's something that I think is a story that resonates with every single one of us, for the reason that that's our connection to God. That there's this story that goes throughout all of human history that's bigger than any one of us. And as ordinary as that so many of us feel on the day-to-day level, really, when God made creation, he made something in his image, and it was mankind. And when he gave his creation a mission, when he wanted his creation to be a part of what he's doing, he chose mankind to be a part of it, and he created us in his image. It says that we were made in our mother's womb. It says, Ephesians 2:8-9, that we're not saved by works, but then it goes on in verse 10 to say that we're created for good works. Like, the God of the universe that designed us, created each one of us, has a purpose for us to be a part of his bigger plan for all of history and all of his creation. And so these stories about totally ordinary people that we can so relate to, and that suddenly they find themselves swept away in something bigger than themselves, that's the story of mankind with their God. And that's what finds it so powerful for me.
Yeah, no, I think we all relate to that hero's journey and getting swept into that deeper story.
Right, and that's where even kind of, so if you've done any research into the history of Star Wars, it talks about how George Lucas was influenced and worked with Joseph Campbell's works, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, and basically studied mythology. And that ties into Star Wars. We're very much a modern version of very classic stories that have been told all throughout human history. And I think the reason that these types of stories, whether it's Superman, Harry Potter, or Luke Skywalker, are so resonant with mankind is because that's the story that we're a part of as very common, simple people that are broken, yet God chooses us to use us to do things bigger than ourselves. That matter far more than my name will ever be remembered. What I do in part of God's story matters. Yeah.
And it's funny because, like, when I look at the character of Rey in this movie, and this is just kind of going off of what you said and me reading way too much into it, is I think Rey has that sense of destiny in her heart. Like, she's on Jakku. She's waiting for her family. So she's there for a legitimate reason. And legitimately, she's not leaving because she's waiting for her family. And that's cool. So she's waiting for some sign, something to come down in some spectacular way to call her out. But when it does come, it comes in a way she never, ever expected. And what I think is so interesting about her character is I can relate to that, you know, feeling the call, but feeling that fear to leave the familiar, even if that familiar is misery. Because there she is on Jakku, and she's watching that old lady clean the stuff she trades for food and money, and she's looking at that old lady like, I don't want to be her. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to grow old here. I don't want this to be my life. But then even when the calling comes, when she leaves Jakku, you find she's fighting to go back. And it is a legitimate reason. What if she misses her parents and her family? So she wants to go back for a reason. But I could really relate to that because it was the same thing with me when I felt God calling me to leave Ohio and move all the way across the country to California. Like, I was done with Ohio. It was misery for me to be there because the calling was so strong and I just knew it was time to go. But it was hard. It's hard to leave the familiar. It's hard to leave what you know, even if it is misery. It's at least a misery you know. And sometimes when God puts that call on you, it's a challenge. I mean, it stretches you. It grows you. You're doing something you've never done before. It does require a level of faith that maybe that has never been exercised before. So it's scary. And I'm looking at Rey's journey and I'm seeing that. And I really related to that in her character. And what I really liked is even when she grabbed the lightsaber and she had those visions and she took off towards the woods, she came running back. Like, when it mattered, when it counted, she made the right choice. And I think that's something very relatable. It's scary to take that step out, but sometimes we just gotta.
Right, and then you can even take Han's story and view him as someone that's kind of gone through some of these journeys of being pulled into it, and then that temptation to step away from it and the back and forth. That's what you see in this story, is that someone that joined the adventure, stepped out of who he commonly was, and so you saw that in the original trilogy. And then between those two things, he moved back. When things got hard, went back to what he was comfortable with, what he knew. That's even a line in the movie, like, I just went back to what I knew. And then once again, when he's called to action, he steps out of the comfort zone into one final adventure.
Yeah. And I'm sad that it was indeed one final adventure.
That's the plot point that got spoiled in a comment section for me, or I was like, really?
And I would have hated that, to have that point of all points spoiled.
Yeah, so I guess this is a spoiler review, but so I think I was reading an article like on, Chipmunks 3, this Christmas Squeakler, whatever it was. I don't remember what it was. I don't know why I would be reading this article, but I'm in the comment section thinking I'm safe from Star Wars spoilers right now, and I just read down and someone writes, Kylo Ren is a Han's son and he kills him. Are you kidding me? Why would you write that? What? You don't know that spoiled it for me. You just know that you're spoiling it. What joy do you get out of this?
Oh my gosh. I would have cried. I would have cried knowing that going in. Oh my gosh.
Well, and then it's just some troll on the internet, so I didn't know. Maybe he's making this up. Maybe he's lying. So I'm watching the movie, and then as it goes through, you learn, oh, he is the son. I was like, but maybe, fingers crossed, he was making it up. He was lying. And then as soon as they're in that room planting the bombs, and then there's like an ominous feel, and the music was going a certain way, I was like,
and you knew.
Oh no, don't walk out on that bridge. Don't walk out on the bridge.
And he walks out, Ben! It's like,
no!
Oh, it's going to happen.
But speaking even of Kylo, to kind of reading way too much into something, I think Kylo is kind of a beautiful story in the worst sense of the word beautiful of sin and the allure of sin. And they refer to it as the dark side, and the way they take it. But really that kind of... playing into what I said before, each of us have incredible potential for good. We're designed by God for a purpose. And when we choose to use that potential, that God-given design that we have for selfish desire, when we're tempted into that, and even as it says there, of the dark side, the light versus the dark, it's a deception that we think that we'll get more than we're ever going to get. And then along the same way, it leads to destruction. And so you see someone that had all the potential to be the guardian of the galaxy. Well, why did I say Guardians of the Galaxy? That's something else. Like, he could be this guardian of the peace, this new Jedi Order, but he chooses instead to go in the selfish direction and is tempted by the dark side, and it destroys him. It tears his family apart. It leads to him teaming up with these people that are destroying star systems, and then it leads him to such deception that thus far as we've seen it, he just killed his father in cold blood. And that's the power of sin. When you, the way we in the moment think this is for the better, I won't get caught, it's not a big deal, and we take little steps along the way that lead us to places we never wanted to go, never thought we would go, never thought we'd end up there, and it has cost us more than we ever possibly could have imagined. And you see that in Kylo Ren, you see it in Anakin. Luckily with Luke, we don't see it with Luke. We see him tempted, but choose the light.
But I like that. I liked watching him tempted by it, and you could see that he was. And especially because of the love of his father. But he did not step over. He goes, you know what? I'm going to be the Jedi that my father was before he fell. And then he stands, and that's awesome. Well, and what's really funny is just today, what you're talking about, I actually had an argument with somebody today about, because they were talking about how the Sith are the best. The Sith are the coolest. And the Republic and the Jedi are just full of hypocrites. And this person I was talking to was being super serious about it. And, it's true, because sometimes, on the good, on the light side, you can see the hypocrisy. I've been in church where I've seen hypocrisy in leadership. It's off-putting. It really is. But then I have to realize I'm a hypocrite. And as I'm walking out in my faith, somebody is sure to see my mistakes and my hypocrisy. Somebody's sure to see it because I'm not perfect. And it's funny how even that can be something that seduces one to the dark side. Because the dark side does look cooler. And sometimes the light side is so full of hypocrisy, it's like, it is so much easier to go downhill instead of uphill. But it's like, but the dark side's all selfish. The dark side's not for you. The dark side's going to kill you. It's going to rip you to shreds. It's going to make you do things you didn't want to do. It's going to extract a price you didn't know that it was offering. And whereas the light, though it's uphill and it's harder, at least there I'm walking with a friend who sticks closer than a brother. I'm walking with Jesus who helps me inside my heart and outside, and it's just a totally different experience. Might be harder in some respects, but in the end, the reward is better.
Yeah, when that's actually, I know we're supposed to be talking about Force Awakens, but that's actually one of the frustrations I had with the prequels, is that could have been the plot line. The hypocrisy of the Jedi Order, or that they couldn't see their own pride in, no, we've got this together. Yeah. And their pride could have been what blinded them. Anakin sees the hypocrisy and turns from it without not realizing the own hypocrisy that creates it in itself, in which case you have actual ideological differences and you have someone thinking they're overcorrecting, pendulum swinging away from the order of this to the authoritarianism of the dark side and the Empire. And he doesn't see his own hypocrisy until his son shows up and says, look what you've done. And he looks back and he goes, I stepped away from one thing because it was the hypocrisy of it. I never saw the hypocrisy of what I was doing. It was there. They had the story. They had the elements to have a better story than what they had, and they just didn't quite go there.
Yeah, I think that's also my thing with the prequel. Well, I have a lot of problems with the prequels. Number one, Anakin being so whiny from beginning to end. Yes. It's like I can't.
Right.
I can't handle this.
And it's like Luke was whiny at the beginning, and he stopped being whiny. He became awesome. Yeah, Anakin,
and the whiny's okay for a short time when it's on a journey, but when like you're about to say, Anakin, there's no journey. He just stays there.
It's like I just much want to be like, what were you thinking? Why would you leave him whiny all the way up until the moment he puts the helmet on? He puts the helmet on, and then he starts whining about his girlfriend or his wife. No!
Oh my god!
Like, you had Darth Vader whining. Why?
Oh my gosh. He took the scariest villain ever and he made him a little whining 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Well,
the prequels.
I suppose that's what we both read way too much into this movie. So, you saw The Force Awakens. What did you read into it? And how excited are you for Rogue One? Sean, Rogue One is coming out this weekend. How excited are you for it?
It was my most anticipated movie of this entire year, and we're just about there. So it's still my most anticipated a year later. So nothing is.
I'm excited.
Like I wasn't crazy about the trailers, but even that didn't stop me from like, I know the movie's going to be awesome. I am so pumped for the movie itself.
Yeah. I enjoyed the trailers, but that's because the concept, I was like, that sounds so... I didn't even like it. But when I saw that first trailer, I went, oh, I see what you're doing there. Okay, I'm very interested.
So, I think this is a really cool direction to go with the spin-off movies. Give a different perspective, not from someone that's on the hero's journey, not with a bunch of Jedi, just a bunch of rebels, literally, going to go probably die. So,
I'm really excited about it, so... Let us know what you think in the comments. And while you're there, check out Sean Chandler's channel. I'm going to have the links to his channel right there in the description. So check that out and join the conversation with him on his channel, as he doesn't just talk about movies. He talks about them with you. I just took your line there, didn't I?
You did. That was nice. I liked that.
I know, but I was excited to do it because I love that line. That's just so cool. Awesome. So check all of that out. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on his channel and my channel and be a part of the conversations on both. Thank you so much for checking out Durbania.